What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy, Marcellus Ease. And when you look at this Philadelphia 76ers situation, you're going to have to look at what's going on behind the curtains as who's making the decisions in this front office. Now, I'm going to play a quick soundbite from Jimmy Butler before I hit off this segment. And you're going to see there's pretty much no direction as far as like who's calling the shots.
I didn't know who the fuck was in charge. I think that was my biggest thing. I didn't know what the fuck to expect whenever I would go into the gym, whenever I go into the plane, whenever I go into the game. I was like, man, I would think I was as lost as the next motherfucker.
Meaning there was just a lot of voices.
Yeah.
And a lot of input from a lot of different places.
And just so much going on any given day. I was like, yep, I guess I'm just here to work. I didn't even know who to talk to.
Now, a couple months ago, Elton Brand had stated that he was not the only one making the decisions for the 76ers, but they made him kind of the face of the people who are making the decisions. As you could tell from Jimmy Butler, a guy who's actively involved in trying to figure out what's going on in his franchise, as we've seen what he did in Miami and also his history also in Minnesota, bumping heads with the front office. Jimmy wants to know what's up. And it seems like in Philadelphia, nobody can actually help this guy out. And now, when you look back at the 76ers, their front office had a lot of fuck-ups. You look at the Markelle Fultz situation, they handled that pick wrong, and they traded some assets just to, move up in that draft. You look at that Jimmy Butler trade, they also lost out on that because he walked away. Now, the Tobias Harris trade, they gave up some assets again, and they signed Tobias Harris, and right now he's pretty much just an overpaid player, and they kind of knew he was going to become an overpaid free agent when making that trade for him. And right now, that's not working out. And then also, they used some of their cap space to sign Al Horford. And pretty much they locked him into a lot of years. They also locked in Embiid and Simmons, all guaranteed years. So right now, they're relying on guys like Alec Burke off the bench to create offense. The trade that they got for Josh Richardson in Miami is not quite working out. He's not a catch-and-shoot three-point guy. I don't know if they thought he would develop to be some sort of other player, sort of like a guy that's going to distribute and create offense. And they're pretty much relying on Alec Burke to do that right now. So Philadelphia is pretty much kind of cap-strapped, and they don't have as much assets as they used to have before. But you guys check out this segment, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I have to put it on Brett Brown, head coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I take no pleasure in saying that. He's going to be fired. I believe he's going to be fired. I think it's going to happen today, to be quite honest with you. Adrian Wojnarowski also is reporting that he doesn't have internal support. I think we all see the handwriting on the wall. He's a good man. He's knowledgeable about the game.
This coach right here, he's like mini coaches throughout the league. I mean, you could look at the coach in OKC, he had the same situation, just doesn't have any control of his star players and pretty much of what direction the franchise is headed because he's not really in the future. Now, also, I'm going to play this quick sound by Jimmy Butler talking about the coaching situation and how powerless he really was.
Nothing's getting accomplished. Nobody's saying nothing to anybody. And we just sitting in here watching film, and you can literally hear the thing just clicking. And we all just looking around. But you got to think, now, I'm just like, I may have been 2-3 weeks there tops.
Yeah, it was the first month.
Yeah, easily. So, you know what? I'm sitting back and I'm watching. I ain't saying nothing because don't nobody know me like that. When I first got to Philly, what did you think of me?
I didn't know.
But if you go by what you read, what do you think of me?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting back, I'm relaxed. I'm like, these motherfuckers think I'm an asshole anyways. Let me be quiet. So I'm sitting back. I'm hearing it. Click, click. I'm looking around. Click, click. All right, guys, let's go practice. Why did we just go through this? That's literally what's going on in my head. So I come to you. I said, JJ, why would I go back in there again? We didn't do nothing. Nothing got accomplished. So now we fast forward to however many weeks is over there, and we're in Portland. And then that happens during the film session because, once again, wasn't nobody saying nothing. So who was the individual that decided to finally say something? He said, who else feels the type of way about it? Now, keep in mind, everybody comes to talk to me because they know I'm not afraid to be the asshole. So, obviously, I talked to him. Brett asked a great question. Who else feels the type of way about something? All I did, I didn't hear nothing behind me. I just knew somebody was going to speak up because I had talked to about 5 people. Crickets. So I turned around, and the first person I just happened to lock eyes with was TJ. So Monty goes, yo, no, for real, now's the time. TJ was like, well, I was like, TJ, man, if you don't say what you got to say, and I love TJ. I talk to TJ all the time, but I just feel like it's okay to speak your mind. Ain't nothing wrong with it. The worst thing that Brett could have said was "fuck you," no, and then you just go back to just being quiet. But at least you get to say what you got to say.
And just like Billy Donovan at OKC, there's a lot of coaches throughout the league that are very scared of criticizing their star players. I don't know if that comes down from the front office. They don't want to scare the superstars off in order to sell tickets, but this is a major issue throughout the league.
Basketball, but I do believe that there are times, Max, that there are certain coaches that show you their ideal assistants as opposed to head coaches who are leaders of men. When you think about somebody like a Doc Rivers, you never see an assistant coach. When you're looking at people like that, the Greg Popoviches of the world who served as an assistant coaches, obviously, the Nick Nurses who served as an assistant coach, along with Budenholzer and others, there's a difference between knowing the X's and O's and knowing how to galvanize the troops to maximize the potential that they may have before you. That is the issue with Brett Brown. I'm not questioning his basketball knowledge.
And there's also an issue with galvanizing Ben Simmons. He seems like he doesn't take well to criticism.
I'm not questioning the fact that he earned the opportunity being an assistant in San Antonio for 9 years before landing in Philadelphia. The process, although I don't want to get started with that, certainly was not of his doing. The first 3 years where they were absolutely horrid and he didn't have a team to coach and he should not have been judged by that. And then the fourth year when he had Joel Embiid, he only had Joel Embiid for like 22 of the 82 games. So that really didn't count. Over the last 3 years, he won 50-plus games.
And that right there is pretty much the story of Philadelphia right there. They have Embiid, which you don't know the future of him as far as his health. They have Simmons, who can't hit a jump shot. They have Al Horford, who don't fit. Tobias Harris, who's a max free agent, who was a max free agent guy, who everyone knows was going to be overpaid. And they're just, they don't really have anyone to create offense and take outside jump shots. I mean, shit, this season they're relying on a minimum salary guy of Alec Burke to do so. I mean, this is overall a complete mess.
Those years, 63% of this game 1 year, 62% of the game is another year, and then this year they went 43-30. But I think the ultimate indictment is how the Sixers were so vastly different on the road compared to when they were at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. To have that level of
They're getting lit, man. Them thotties, bro. They're going after them thotties.
Talent. And to be like 14 games under 500, that was just disgraceful in terms of their road record. The inability to galvanize the troops and to maximize their potential. Telling Ben Simmons that he needed to shoot more jump shots and he needed to work on it, but never truly seeing that development come game time. Not utilizing Joel Embiid as effectively as he should have. Jimmy Butler electing to walk away, the coach having no impact in terms of influencing him to stay on board as opposed to going to South Beach.
And from the sounds of Jimmy Butler, as I played in the previous sound bites, it sounds like he had no power to influence anyone.
JJ Redick, that could be a management decision, make no mistake about it. But one of the things you highlighted, Mac.
And JJ Redick letting him go is going to be a major thing, we're all going to look back on. Because Philly, man, they're missing that outside shooter component.
That J.J. Redick was a liability defensively. Well, I considered him a sniper, somebody that needed to be on that squad. And obviously, you know what? You could have had some influence over those guys staying as well. All of these things collectively, I think when you look at the potential coaches out there, the Mark Jacksons, the Ty Lues of the world, and others, there are better options for this collection of talent to make a decision ultimately about Embiid and Simmons and whether or not we should keep them together, which I think you should. There are better coaches to maximize that potential other than Brett Brown. That's why I believe that he should not be the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers any longer. And I predict by the end of the day, tomorrow by 12 noon at the latest, the Sixers will be announcing that they have relieved.
You mean Elton Brand is going to be told by 5 different people that they made a decision already to fire the coach? That's what you really mean. Nobody knows who the hell's calling the shots over there in Philadelphia. I mean, this franchise has been a mess, even since the Charles Barkley days where he forced himself out of there. Jesus.
Brett Brown of his duties as head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, I respectfully disagree because I think you make a good argument. I think you could also make an argument that Elton Brand hasn't done a great job as a GM. I think you can also make an argument that Josh Harris and ownership by.
You guys can look back. Look back at the articles, man. I'm telling you, Elton Brand has made numerous comments to try to kind of expose that he's not the one that's really making the decisions. He's just the face. They've recently made him the face of the decision making by, giving him that GM role, but he's not the only one that's doing so.
Forcing Elton Brand to keep Brian Colangelo some of his staff instead of really empowering Elton Brand to do his job is also, you could blame all these places. But if you're saying,
oh, look, Max actually stated it right there. That he's not the only one that's making decisions. They're kind of forcing Elton Brand's hands on certain things.
Who's most to blame? The biggest factor here is that Ben Simmons didn't play. I mean, simple. If we're talking about a sweep, why did they get swept? Ben Simmons didn't play. Stephen A., you talked.
Yeah, but if Ben Simmons played, most likely they could have lost anyway. I mean, this team has been up and down the whole season. That gap in the bubble. I mean, sure, Ben Simmons got more brolic, but I'm not sure if that helped out his jump shot.
This collection of talent. This is the island of misfit toys, right? Even when they constructed this roster. Now, I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that they got Horford in the offseason, considering they were losing Butler. They got back Richardson, who, if he's having a good shooting year, you think maybe he can shoot it well enough. Plus, he plays defense. Plus, he's cheaper, obviously. He's not.
Oh, hell yeah. They got him on 3 years in a very cheap deal, and he was doing his best kind of imitation of D Wade when he was down in Miami. So they probably thought he was going to create offense. He was kind of doing his best Ben Simmons role in Miami, but they thought, he was going to create more offense and just take more three-point shots, which that was never his game. Once again, I question who's really making the decisions here, because Philadelphia, they got, Ben Simmons, a great guard, but this is a three-point shooting era where most guards are shooting threes, and their guy can't do that. And then the other superstar, Embiid, it's not even guaranteed he's going to be in shape or healthy. So this is a really a unique conundrum.
Be a max contract guy, obviously, and also still ascending, maybe. Oh, that's a nice replacement. I see what they're doing there. And Redick then being gone, his transition defense was terrible last year. But obviously he can shoot it. They need the shooting, but they're going with more of a defensive squad. In fact, just taking Horford away from Boston, who did a great job on Embiid in the playoffs, that's going to help them. And I had no idea that Horford looked like was a shot player basically at this point, or was incapable of playing the four and playing alongside Embiid. I had no idea about that. So I like this roster they put together.
That shit is clunky in the middle. They must have seen what Horford, how he shut down Embiid. They thought that they can just nullify that by getting him on the squad and just putting him next to Embiid. But that's not working out, and that's eating up a lot of cap space. And Horford, he's on the downside of his career right now as far as his peak, but that's not working out for them, man. Like I said, Philadelphia, this is a unique conundrum situation, man. You don't know what the fuck. Like everything they have, every piece on this team has an issue.
Knowing it was flawed, knowing they couldn't shoot, but I see what they're doing. It didn't work out that way. Al Horford looks over the hill, and he can't play next to Embiid. Richardson's not giving them enough shooting, and neither is anyone else. So given that situation, this collection of talent, as you say, needs to have all their players available, particularly one of their two best players. Ben Simmons was the best defensive player in the world, in my opinion, this season. He also, you have to put him in the dunker spot in the playoffs and all this stuff. He's still a very valuable offensive piece. If you take from a collection of kind of misfit pieces, you take the most or second most important player off completely and you put him in against a very well coached and very talented team that can shoot, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, Max Kellerman, my retort would be this. If you recall a couple of years ago in the postseason, 2017-2018, the Boston Celtics took the Philadelphia 76ers out in 5 games. They were up 3-0 in that series. Ben Simmons was on the floor at that particular moment in time. And I highlighted how it was the first time in my career I saw a coach lose 3 straight playoff games. I saw Brett Brown admit that the team wasn't prepared.
Really? Really, Stephen A.? You have not seen Doc Rivers do that so many times? Come on, man.
Game 1. I saw the Celtics make a pivotal run in Game 2, and he didn't make any substitutions, didn't make any adjustments, and didn't get Joel Embiid the ball. Game number 3, when you needed a three-point shot, he had J.J. Redick inbounding the ball, and his argument was, we've worked on that play all year long. Well, duh, Brad Stevens knew that too, which is why he was prepared to defend against it, and they ultimately lost that series in 5 games. If you recall, you bring up Elton Brand. Elton Brand's only been on the job for 2 years. You got a situation where Brett Brown, this is his 7th.
Allegedly, he's been on the job for 2 years. Like I said, man, they make him the face of the decisions. But really, who's making the decisions in Philadelphia?
Complete season, and he's had 3 full years to show that after the first 4 years of a mulligan you threw in his direction, that some progress needed to be made. I think we all see the Sixers going in an opposite direction, and in terms of ownership, nobody's absolving them from accountability, because you got to find a way to keep a Jimmy Butler and keep this team intact. But last year when they lost the series to Kawhi in 7 games, there was a game at least or 2 pivotally where Joel Embiid didn't show up, and we were also looking at the coaches saying, you got to peel, make sure that you got young, vibrant stars, and you're holding them accountable, and they're doing the kind of things that you coach them to do instead of being 7-1, standing out in the three-point line and not getting your big behind in the post and being a man amongst boys.
Embiid has to stop doing that with that three-point shooting. He has to get down low more. But that might be an issue with him being out of shape. When you start settling for jump shots like that and you're a big man, he might be out of shape. But as far as the coaching, some coaches, I mean, you could even look at this coach right here that Philadelphia has. He could be a guy that's kind of in between being a good head coach and being just an assistant coach as his peak. Just like how some guys in the NBA, they're good. They're kind of in between of being in the G League and being in the league. You know, there's a few guys who could drop like 50 points in a G League game, then get bumped up to the NBA and then be a straight bum. So this coach right here, he seems like a lower end of what Mike D'Antoni could be if he wasn't as sophisticated. There's some coaches that are like that. They're kind of stuck in between. That's why they stay in that assistant role for a long time.
All things we've periodically brought up about Brett Brown. And the fact of the matter is we have not seen elevation. We have not seen improvement. And there does come a time, it's not about you being a bad coach. It's about there needs to be a change. That's all.
Look, if you want to argue Brett Brown is not a great coach, I think he's a good coach. Is he not a great coach? I agree with that. If they had Ben Simmons, they wouldn't have been swept. That's the point. The sweep is because they didn't have Ben Simmons.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But there is an issue with the coach. This coach and Bullholzer down in Milwaukee, they kind of have the same issue. Everyone's questioning to see if they're going to pass that litmus test of just that some playoff competition. Can they get their teams over a certain hump? And some coaches, they could never get their teams over a certain hump. You can even look at back in the 90s with Rick Adelman, the coaches for the Sacramento Kings. He's always one of these guys that's in conference finals. Same thing for Mike D'Antoni. Always, you know, they make it to that next level of the conference finals, but they can never get up to that finals level. And there's some coaches that are like that. I mean, it is what it is. We'll see how this plays out. Until next time, y'all stay safe. Peace.